Hi, I'm Michael Ruger. I'm the managing partner of Greenbush Financial Group. Today is March 11th, and Congress recently passed the third stimulus package called the American Rescue Plan. And Biden is expected to sign that into law either today or tomorrow. And one of the really big components of that plan is enhancing the child tax credit. So families that have children that are under the age of 18, there are some big stimulus payments that could potentially be coming your way that they're going to be advancing to you, which is actually separate from the $1,400 stimulus checks that will be going out probably over the next few weeks. So it's really important to know the income thresholds, and with these child tax credits, normally you have to wait until you file your taxes to receive these credits. But what they changed with this stimulus package was families may begin receiving monthly payments from the government starting July 1st for the remainder of the year, because essentially they're giving you these credits in advance of you filing your tax return. In this video, we're going to cover all the details regarding these child tax credits, the enhanced amounts, how much did they go up by, what the calculation is so you know how much you might be receiving each month starting in July from the government, as well as the income thresholds, because these do phase out depending on what your income is each year and what tax year they're going to be looking at for determining what your income is. Before we get into all the new rules that are just being introduced with this child tax credit, let's talk about what we had before. So before this new child tax credit came into place, there was a $2,000 per child tax credit that was available, but it was for children under the age of 17. Any children that turned 17 that tax year or above weren't eligible for that $2,000 credit. The one big thing that they changed with this new legislation is the age. So as I mentioned, it used to be under 17. Now for 2021, it's under 18. So children turning 17 that otherwise would not have been eligible for the credit in previous years will be eligible to receive this new child tax credit in 2021. And they adjust the amounts of the credits higher. So it was $2,000. Depending on the age of the child, they increased that tax credit amount. So for children that are ages 6 to 17, the credit was increased from $2,000 to $3,000 per child. For children that are under the age of 6, the credit is actually increased even more, so went from $2,000 to $3,600 per child. The big change here is they are now advancing this money to you for 2021 before you file your taxes. So technically these are 2021 tax credits that normally you would get when you filed your 2021 tax return in 2022, but they're saying we're going to give some of this money to you ahead of time. So what they're going to do is they're going to run the calculation based off of your most recent tax filing. So for most of us, it'll probably be the 2020 tax return. They're going to look at your dependents, they're going to look at your income, but if you haven't filed your 2020 tax return yet, they're most likely going to work off of 2019 to determine your eligibility. So what they're going to do is they're going to run an estimated calculation of what your tax credit should be for the child tax credit for 2021, and they're going to be forwarding people 50% of that estimated amount. So if I have, let's say, 2 kids ages 8 and 10, and I qualify for the tax credit, that means I get $3,000 a piece, so $6,000, but they're going to forward me 50% of that, but that 50% is going to be spread across 6 monthly payments. So if I'm due, let's say, $3,000 for 50% of my benefit, they're going to send me a check for $500 a month, July, August, September, October, November, December, to essentially forward me part of the credit that they estimate is going to be due to me for 2021. These amounts are not taxable to you because they're actually tax credits. So the question I always get, do I have to report, is this taxable income to me when I get this money from the government later on in the year? The answer to that is no. But what makes it slightly confusing is there is a separate phase-out threshold of income based on different pieces of the payment. So you're still getting the old $2,000 tax credit that was due under the old rules, and those $2,000 tax credits had different thresholds for the phase out. So if you were a single filer, that child tax credit of $2,000 started phasing out at $200,000 in income, and then it completely phased out at $240,000. If you were married filing joint, that original $2,000 tax credit started phasing out at $400,000 in income and completely phased out at $440,000. So really high thresholds for the $2,000. But what this new child tax credit did is it basically stacked it up on top of that. So you might be getting an extra $1,000 or $1,600 based on the age of the child, and that has a separate phase out range to make you eligible. The phase out range for these additional child tax credits over and above the $2,000 for single filers, it starts at $75,000 worth of AGI, and for married filing joint, the phase out begins at $150,000 of AGI. Now, AGI is that line 11 on your 1040, so you can reference it. Essentially, the way the phase out works is for every $1,000 of income you have above those thresholds, that additional child tax credit starts to phase out by $50 for every $1,000 of income above the threshold. Now, while this seems like a super complex calculation, there's definitely calculators out there on the internet that can actually run this calculation. They ask for your filing status, the age of the children, and it will automatically calculate what your total estimated child tax credit would be and what the estimated monthly amount the government might be sending to you. So that might be an easier way to go about it. And I'll put a link to one of them in the description of this video. There is an enormous difference that you have to be aware of with these estimated child tax advance payments that they're going to be making to you versus the stimulus check you got. Because some people kind of played the game saying, if I don't file my 2020 return, it shows lower income at 19, so I'll qualify for that $1,400 stimulus check. And the IRS was pretty much saying, if you get it, and your income happens to be higher, we're not going to claw it back, which means you don't have to pay it back. That is different for this child tax credit. If your income ends up being higher and you start to phase out of these child tax credits, you will end up having to pay back the money that they're advancing to you during 2021 based on their estimates. So just be aware that if your income changes substantially or dependents change substantially, you could end up owing some of this money back, as opposed to some people that have been gaming the system with the actual stimulus tax payments, which are completely separate. But they did create a safe harbor for certain individuals from these clawbacks. So the way it works is if you make under a certain income amount, which is a different threshold amount, then they say if we paid you too much, you can keep up to $2,000 of that money that we accidentally sent to you. So for single filers, if you're below $40,000 in AGI, they let you just keep up to $2,000, and it starts to phase out over that amount. For joint filers, it's the $60,000. If you're $60,000 or below, they allow you to keep $2,000 of the excess amount they sent to you, but then it starts to phase out once you get over that amount. There is so much included in this new stimulus bill for individual families beyond just, this child tax credit, beyond the $1,400 stimulus payments. There's additional credits out there for paying daycare for your children, for payments you might have made for your health care throughout the year, how they are taxing unemployment benefits. So we're going to be breaking it up into a series of videos, and we'll keep listing the links to the videos in the description below. But please feel free to subscribe to the channel so we can keep you up to date, and feel free to contact me with any questions at moneysmartboard.com. Thank you.